Truth is hate speech to those who hate the truth. You know, we've been hearing a lot about this fake news ever since the end of the election. We've been hearing that the Russians hacked the electoral computers. That's a bunch of horse crap. The only way those can be hacked is to be on scene. In other words, somebody has to do it. We've seen what happened in Detroit, and the Democrats in Detroit were trying to shut down the recount because they're going to find the discrepancies, and the discrepancies happened at the hands of the Democrats in Detroit. But when we talk about fake news, well, the Russians are one example. That never happened. Bob Baer says it did, but Bev Harris, who's one of the leading vote fraud, election fraud people in the world, she says, no, there's no way it could happen. Not the way Bob's saying it. Bob's a CIA guy. He's out hunting for Hitler. He's doing a good job on that. But you have to remember the CIA has a huge contract with the people that own the Washington Post. I think that's Jeff Bezos. When we look at CNN, NBC, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, they were all in the tank for Hillary. They were putting out fake polls. Huge fake polls. They were not scientific whatsoever. They were calling, in one case, they called 68% Democrats and less than 20% Republicans, and that gave Hillary a 15-point lead. Should have been a 68 to 20 lead, but it wasn't. When we go back in time, we can see that the media has been involved in creating stories or fake news all the way back to when I was a little kid. And the CIA has been a big part of it. Gulf of Tonkin. If you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, that was in 1964. And the CIA listening post in Da Nang called up a Navy destroyer, I forget the name of it, and said that there were 7 North Vietnamese patrol boats on getting ready to have attack runs on this destroyer. And the destroyer couldn't see anything on their scope, the radar. They went out with the big eyes. They couldn't see anything, and yet the captain was ordered to fire. And so there was a large amount of fire coming from the destroyer, wasting thousands of dollars of ammunition. But what it did was it got us involved deeply in the Vietnam War. Now, right before John Kennedy was shot, he had created a document that would have withdrawn all of our troops from Vietnam, except for some training troops. And we had not really had any people involved in any battles other than just getting ambushed. But that's another example of fake news, because Lyndon Johnson, on the 22nd of November 1963, he rescinded the president's order. He didn't have the authority to do that, and yet the Pentagon went along with it. Eisenhower told us to be aware of the military-industrial complex. John Kennedy talked a lot with President Eisenhower, especially during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And he came out in speech after speech talking about the military-industrial complex. We go forward, and NBC or CBS was doing a story on an automobile or a truck with a poorly positioned gas tank. They actually put an explosive charge in the gas tank and then hit it with a car, T-boned it. And they put that forth as real news. It was fake news. And then we find out that the mainstream media doesn't call themselves news anymore. They're entertainment. They are not news. Just the other day, Rachel Maddow came out and she says, "Oh, look, most people hate Donald Trump." Once again, they went out to a bunch of Democrats and did the survey. 53% of the Democrats don't trust him. 41% of the Democrats do. That tells a lot. The fake news has been around for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, it didn't matter which channel you turned on. And we only had 4 channels: ABC, NBC, CBS, and WTTV in Indianapolis. That was all we had. Every one of the news stories at the national level was the exact same. Now, I don't know if they saved money by traveling together, but no matter what it was, very seldom did you have any deviation from the main news story, the storyline, the party line. Then we get to like the New York Times. New York Times used to have a motto of all the news that's fit to print. Their motto now is all the news that fits the party line, the storyline, what they want you to think. And it's the same with every other newspaper, unless you get down to the little tiny ones. And they, for the most part, don't cover nationwide and worldwide stories. If we want to get the truth about what's going on in the United States, it's better to go to the UK Mail or the Jerusalem Post, because those people tell what's going on, what's actually going on in the United States. Black Lives Matter. They say that that kid had his hands up and the officer shot him in the back of the head. Then how in the hell did the officer get shot in the leg? How were there bullet holes in the floorboard? Turns out that the kid broke his jaw. He broke the cop's jaw. And the cop did not weigh 260 pounds or whatever that kid weighed. The kid had just got done robbing a store, and he had been involved in that type of crap the whole time. This is nothing more than subterfuge, a total lie. And yet, the media reports it as if it's the gospel truth. That's the last thing it is. So when we want to find out what the real news is, we have to go to people who are running periscopes. That's just clicking on your cell phone and doing a quick video showing what's actually going on. Going to places like, well, Matt Drudge, Breitbart. Don't go to the Young Turks, because they're nothing more than MSNBC on the internet. But Alex Jones, people like that are doing one hell of a job, and they are correct 85-90% of the time. And when they make a mistake, they're quick to retract it. But when the mainstream media makes a mistake, they double down and they try to back their stuff up with more fake stories. So that's my take on the fake stories. And what they're trying to do is censor everybody. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press. And we're all the press. And we need to give the mainstream media a full court press. If everybody goes out and puts stuff on the internet that actually shows the truth, not just tell the truth like I'm doing an opinion piece here now, but actually shows what's going on, you find out. And we get to WikiLeaks. Oh, that's fake news. Well, all of those emails had been subpoenaed by the Congress. And they'd been covered up by Hillary and all of her minions. You might as well just call WikiLeaks a subpoena program. Most of the WikiLeaks came from people inside the DNC. And we've had a lot of people executed for doing that. That kid, Seth Green, or whatever his name was, that was shot in Washington, D.C. He was one of the primary leakers of a lot of the DNC movements against Bernie Sanders. Nothing was taken. It wasn't a robbery. It was a hit. And when tyrants can't control everything, they end up eliminating what they can't control. So, talk to you later.